And let's begin at the National Assembly, where the House of Representatives has withdrawn the second reading of a bill seeking to strip the immunity conferred on the President, Vice President, governors and their deputies. The bill aimed to curb corruption and enhance accountability. Also receded was a bill seeking to review penalties for certain capital offenses in alignment with relevant international best practices. The Deputy Speaker, who presided over the plenary, stated that the decision was made to allow lawmakers and other stakeholders to provide further input. In the meantime, 31 additional constitutional amendment bills have passed the second reading in the House of Representatives, addressing key issues such as inclusive governance, judicial and electoral reforms, state and local government creation, and the devolution of power. This development brings the total number of amended bills that have passed the second reading to 112. Among the newly advanced bills is one proposing the establishment of the office of the Prime Minister as head of government, while the President remains head of state. Other bills include proposals for the creation of additional local government areas in Abia, Enugu, Delta, Imo, and Zamfara states, as well as a bill seeking to review the status of the Federal Capital Territory regarding presidential elections. And to help us put this into perspective, we're joined by legal practitioner Elvis Asia. Elvis, thanks so much for doing this with us. Let's just get started, shall we? Can you explain the constitutional foundations of legislative immunity for members of the House of Representatives? What precedent exists that defines the scope of this immunity?
Well, quite frankly, if you look at it, there has always been the cry about Section 308 of the Constitution that gives immunity to the President, Vice President, Governor, and deputies. And, you know, most of the arguments have always been anchored on the, transparency, accountability that has been swept over the carpet under the guise of the immunity clause. The House of Representatives sought to amend it, but unfortunately, in doing so, it will appear that they started on the wrong footing. What they wanted to do was to remove immunity for the governor, the deputy, the vice president, but that's really not what the goal should be. The goal should be reworking that provision to better serve the demands of democracy, in terms of ensuring accountability, transparency, particularly in management of public funds, and not to completely remove it. If you look at how competitive our political system is, you agree with me that there's need for some form of immunity for these elected officials. It's just that we need to now rework it to so that it no longer provides a shield for financial misappropriation, lack of transparency, and accountability in governance. So when the House of Reps introduced it, I was worried because I knew it wasn't going to pass through, because if you want to amend the Constitution, you're going to require the states, and the governors are directly affected. And most of the governors across the state controls the houses of assemblies. So I'm not really surprised that it is being withdrawn. And then, in doing so, there wasn't any proper debate. This is a matter of national importance that requires serious debate, that requires public presentation of the bill so that members of the public can make input. But unfortunately, it was rushed, and some people believe that may have some relationship with what's happening in Rivers State, because it was proposed by somebody from there, and so now they appear to have come to terms with reality, and they want to let it go through the proper trial of debate before passage of such an important constitutional amendment bill.
How does the withdrawal of this immunity interact with the separation of powers doctrine? Are there any constitutional challenges anticipated if the bill is enacted?
No, well, I don't think it will have any impact on the separation of powers. because separation of powers, all of these principles are as defined by the Constitution. Yes, the National Assembly has the right and the powers under the Constitution to amend the Constitution. And so, amending it and removing immunity, or moderating it in a manner as to serve the ideals of a true democratic system, the ideals of a transparent and accountable system, is not really something that is bad. It's just that the way we go about things in this part of the world is always personalized, rushed, and not properly considered. So I don't really think that there will be any issues, provided that the appropriate thing is done. The bill is given the widest publication. The proper debates are held, and the input of everybody is sought. Don't forget that it's not enough to just pass bills, particularly when you are amending the Constitution. You must have it in mind that you need a bill that will scale through the Houses of Assembly. And so if you just pass it to suit your own personal dictates or emotional or personal interest today, the chances of it scaling will not be there. So I think that the issue is not really whether it offends the principle of separation of powers. The issue is in activating your legislative powers under the Constitution. Are you doing so for the proper motive, or you have ulterior motive? Are you doing so in the best possible manner as envisaged in a democratic society?
I mean, the public perception, or rather, should I say the public's attention, seem to be distracted at this point. But do you think that the withdrawal of the immunity bill might affect public perception of the lawmakers? Is there a concern that this could lead to a chilling effect on open debate and transparency?
I don't think the perception is going to change at this time. What we have, the National Assembly that we have today, is really at all-time low in terms of transparency with their processes and proceedings, in terms of accountability, the way and manner they vote over very important bills and over very, very important national issues, has really shown that the people cannot really trust them. And I don't think this action is going to help in any way. And don't forget that, yes, it's been withdrawn, and not that they have completely removed it. They're still going to now go through the proper process and perhaps allow, debate and, do proper voting. Because really what is happening within this National Assembly is really very sad. It has become an undemocratic institution. It's supposed to be a symbol of democracy, but in the House where you do voice votes to endorse serious issues like declaration of emergency, bills to amend the Constitution, and other very important matters, really it doesn't speak well. And this action is not, well, might be the right direction, but it's not going to be enough to save the face of the current leadership and members of the National Assembly. They have done a great disservice to the nation in not allowing proper debates, in not allowing proper voting, and in putting everything under the shadow of voice votes to avoid people really knowing who voted in a particular way. Because members of the constituencies of these representatives and senators are supposed to be able to ask, supposed to be able to find out how their representatives are doing at the National Assembly. But when you put everything under voice votes that they have been doing, it becomes very difficult to hold them to account. And that's why this action, though laudable, is probably not going to be enough, to assuage the current perception,
all right,
which is justifiable perception of members of the public.
All right, Elvis, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us once again. Thank you, Elvis Asia, the legal practitioner, giving us a bit of insight following the withdrawal of the President, Vice President, Governor, and Deputy Immunity Bill that has been withdrawn after a second reading. Let's now head to the Senate, where there was a mild protest at plenary after lawmakers from Nigeria's southeast walked out of the chambers over the rejection of a motion to immortalize Professor Humphrey Nwosu. The motion proposed, sponsored by Abia Senator Naya Abaribi, he sought to honor the former chairman of the National Electoral Commission who conducted the widely acclaimed June 12, 1993 election, still considered Nigeria's freest and fairest. But when put to a voice vote, the Senate rejected all prayers in the motion except for a minute's silence in honor of the late Nwosu. In protest, Southeast lawmakers walked out of plenary and addressed a press conference, urging the current administration, which they say benefits from the legacy of June 12, to do the needful and immortalize the man who made it possible. After the address, the Southeast Caucus returned to the chambers to continue with plenary.
As a June 12 warrior, and therefore all the elements that make up June 12, including the conduct of the election. And like we said, if there was no election, there would have been no June 12. So we can also use this opportunity that we're here addressing you to appeal to the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to honor the man who made sure that that election held, despite that it was done, and put elections in the consciousness of Nigerians, because that election was what led everybody else to now be doing subsequent elections. Thank you. He was a member, and he also participated fully in that election. So let him make it. In that election, so let him make it.
Well, I just want to recall that without Professor Nwosu's sagacity and courage, that election wouldn't have taken place. We are all aware that Justice Ibibia said that there shall be no election. By 9:30 in the morning on June 10th, Professor Nwosu audaciously, without invitation, went to the National Defense and Security Council and insisted and convinced them that election process had commenced. That was why President Babangida allowed him to conduct the election. And if anybody is saying that he did not announce the result, the person is lying, because the results were being announced. In fact, they have announced 29. It was remaining only Taraba State. And even when they ordered him to come to the Aso Rock, I want to tell you, he was even arrested. But he still ordered that Taraba be announced. So at what point will Harcourt have announced that result? Is it in our Aso Rock when they detained him? We must be serious. But the truth of the matter is that the Senate resolution is advising, is not even compelling. So we are urging President Tinubu to do the right thing by immortalizing Professor Humphrey. Thank you.
The sole administrator of Rivers State, retired Vice Admiral Ibok-Ete Ibas, has sworn in Professor Ibibia Lucky-Worika as his new secretary to the state government, urging him to leverage his extensive experience to strengthen governance in the state. The swearing-in ceremony took place at the executive chambers of Government House in Port Harcourt. It marks a pivotal moment as Ibas moves to consolidate his authority, coming on the same day he dismissed all appointees of the suspended Governor Siminalayi Fubara. Describing Worika's appointment as a strategic decision, Ibas reaffirmed his administration's commitment to effective governance. Meanwhile, youths in Rivers State have declared their support for sole administrator Ibok-Ete Ibas, describing his appointment as the only viable solution to the state's escalating political tensions. Shortly after electing a new executive committee, the Rivers State chapter of the National Youth Council of Nigeria pledged to work closely with the sole administrator to restore the state's status and stability. The youth group also urged all political actors to halt further litigations and instead unite to restore peace and order in the state. However, they warn that if political stakeholders fail to act with caution, the presidency may be forced to extend the initial 6-month emergency rule.
The leadership of the National Youth Council of Nigeria Rivers State Chapter will do everything within her capacity to give the best of support to the sole administrator, so that the mandate that was given to him by the presidency, the president went through a democratic process by subjecting the emergency rule to the National Assembly, and they ratified it and okayed it. And we, the Rivers people, are very happy because it has restored peace and normalcy to the streets. This is what we're here for, so that business can flourish, people can progress, people can go about their normal businesses without the fear of a sudden thing that might just happen. We will contribute our own quota through dialogue, meaningful dialogue. We will not protest illegally or carelessly. We will engage the system with relevant conversations, ideas, and support in any way we can to ensure that this administration of initial 6 months succeeds.
The president in his wisdom has sent a sole administrator to come to Rivers State to calm down every raging wars and every worrying factors in the political crisis in Rivers State. And this new leadership of the Youth Council are willing and ready to work with the sole administrator to ensure that peace is restored back into Rivers State.
There has been tensions, there has been a lot of litigations in Rivers State. People are scared. People cannot go about their normal activities because this group will come out, protest about this. Other groups are coming out, protesting about this. But today, everywhere is calm. The dividends of democracy is being delivered to Rivers people. So that's the most important thing. You understand? So all we are yearning for is peace to return back, and peace has actually returned back to Rivers State. So we thank the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for his wise decision. Even if it's not convenient for us as youth, but we accept it in good faith.
In reaction to this, the Secretary General of the Ijaw Youth Council Worldwide, Maoboye Nangi Obu, has condemned the suspension of political appointees and dissolution of statutory boards in Rivers State by the state's administrator, retired Vice Admiral Ibok-Ete Ibas. Nangi Obu described the move as a full-blown military dictatorship, alleging that it is a part of a broader scheme to enable unchecked looting of state resources. In a statement released, he accused the administrator of carrying out a premeditated plan to dismantle democratic governance in this state. Let's also tell you that the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Afam Osigwe, senior advocate of Nigeria, has emphasized that the essence of the rule of law is governance by law, not by individuals. Speaking on Breakfast Central, Osigwe stated that all government actions, decisions, and pronouncements must be justified within the framework of the Constitution. He further stressed that a functional government must uphold constitutional principles to ensure fairness, accountability, and justice in governance.
There should be a country ruled by law and not by men, and that actions should be governed by the dictates of the Constitution, both the spirit and the letters of the same. And that whenever any government functionary takes a decision or makes a pronouncement, such pronouncement or decision must be justified in the context of the Constitution, which is 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And looking at the content of the address by the President, we have the view that the reason stated for the declaration of state of emergency did not meet the requirement of Section 305, I think subsection 2. And also the declaration by the President suspending the governor, his deputy, and the sitting of the House of Assembly, in our view, was also unconstitutional, in that the Constitution does not empower a president or any person, for that matter, except the House of Assembly, to remove or suspend a governor. In this section 11.4 of the Constitution, which has to be read together with Section 305, makes it clear that in an emergency, that the National Assembly does not have power to remove a governor. And I don't want to waste my time on the argument whether suspension is removal, because when I suspend you, I remove you, I'll be temporarily from acting in your office. And we should take that argument as being of no moment. So the point is, the president does not have the power. And some people may argue, but say it's National Assembly and not the president. For the president to have express power to remove a governor, such powers must be donated by the Constitution. And if you look at Section 188, I think, which stipulated circumstances or reasons for removal of a governor, of a person to cease to act in the office of a governor, declaration of state of emergency is not one of the grounds. And if we are led by the Constitution, it must be such that no such power is exercised by a person that cannot be justified in reference to the Constitution.
In another development, the president of the Nigeria Bar Association also responded to the recent attack on the Koto Karfi Federal Medium Security Prison in Kogi State, where unknown gunmen freed inmates. Osigwe stressed that the prison populations and awaiting trial inmates must be managed in accordance to the law. He noted that escaped prisoners should be recaptured within 14 days, while detainees must be released if the police cannot justify their continued custody within 59 days. This principle, he added, also applies to individuals held in police custody.
What to be done to avoid having a prison population dominated by pre-trial inmates, or what we call awaiting trial inmates. Now, there are provisions in the ACJA on how remand orders are to be made. And most of the persons in these facilities were sent there by magistrates or courts on remand order, even in the absence of any pending charge against them. And the ACJA has stipulated that when a magistrate makes such an order, that the person should be brought back to court within 14 days, and a certain maximum number of, I think, 59 days. If the police cannot justify the keeping of that person, then the person should be released. It also extends to persons who are being detained in police facilities, EFCC, and then the BSSS facility. The law is that such persons, the magistrates are to visit those facilities, detention facilities, once every month. And this is not being done. So at the bar, we're embarking on an advocacy that these provisions of the law be activated. I always make the point that sometimes some of the provisions of the law needed to obviate these harsh situations or unfair situations we have in our detention facilities are there in the law.
You're watching news now on News Central Television. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we return, Emir Bayero cancels Eid al-Fitr celebration, citing insecurity. We have the details just after the break. Join us again. And welcome back. And now it's off to Kano State, where the 15th Emir of Kano, Aminu Bayero, has cancelled the Eid al-Fitr Durbar celebration due to security concerns in the state. Speaking at his Nasarawa Nini Palace in Kano on Wednesday night, Bayero emphasized that the peaceful coexistence of the people takes precedence over the Durbar celebration. He had initially planned to mark the Durbar celebration, which would have coincided with his 15th anniversary on the throne. However, after consultations with respected Islamic clerics, elders, stakeholders, and his council members, he decided to cancel the event to maintain peace in the state. Still on security, the police campaign against cultism and other vices Pokov has called on youths in Nigeria, particularly in Lagos, to desist from cultism, drugs, and other heinous behavior, as they are consequences of their actions. This was made known at the 2025 Ramadan lecture by Pokakov, an arm of the Nigerian police force created to intensify the fight against cultism and other vices, particularly through preventive policing. Relevant stakeholders present at the event posted that curbing cultism and other vices is a collaborative effort of the home, educational institutions, as well as religious organizations and the entire society, as everyone must play their part in bringing an end to the menace.
We're just telling them that whatever action they take in this life, either during Ramadan or after Ramadan, definitely there are consequences for it. as human beings. So we're just telling them that as they're saying no to criminality during Ramadan, as they're saying no to cultism during Ramadan, as they're saying no to drug abuse and substance abuse, and that this no should transcend the time of Ramadan. Even after Ramadan, there should be no to criminality.
They need to change their ways. If you are members of a cult group, if you are so much into drug addiction, we should know that this can bring about, can lead you to more criminal tendencies, like crime of robbery, rape, and all what have you. So you should change your ways. If you are with this lecture, I want to believe many of them that are here must have the lecture must have impacted in them positively.
It's a very laudable idea, and where at Ejigboye we want to identify with the program and continue to show our support where necessary. So it's a welcome thing. And to the youth, I want to appeal to the Nigerian youth, particularly youth in Ejigbo, to take this fresh idea as another second chance to rebuild their lives.
The Independent National Electoral Commission has confirmed receiving the contact details of representatives behind the petition seeking to recall Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduoga, who represents Kogi Central. INEC has previously stated that the petitioners failed to include their contact addresses, phone numbers, and email addresses in the covering letter that accompanied the petition, as required under Clause 1F of its regulations and guidelines. However, in an update, INEC National Commissioner and Chairman of the Information and Voter Education Committee, Sam Olumekun, he announced that the missing details had now been provided in a letter addressed to the INEC chairperson dated 26 March 2025. INEC further stated that the next step would be to verify the list of signatories submitted by the petitioners to ensure that the petition is supported by more than half of the registered voters and the constituents. In reaction to this, the suspended senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti-Oduoga, has criticized the Independent National Electoral Commission for allowing corrections to errors in the petition seeking her recall instead of rejecting it outright. Speaking through her lawyer, Victor Giwa, Akpoti-Oduoga accused INEC of compromising its neutrality by assisting the petitioners rather than declaring the petition procedurally flawed and therefore invalid. The suspended senator argued that INEC should have dismissed the petition outright, which would have brought an immediate end to the recall process. She also pointed out that the addresses provided in the petition were limited to Okene, Kogi State, questioning whether the signatures truly represented the entire senatorial district. You're watching news now on News Central Television. Coming up, new dawn in Niger as military chief Tichiani is sworn in as president. We have the details just after the break. Join us again. And welcome back. The head of Niger's military regime, who seized power in a July 2023 coup, has been formally sworn in as president of the republic for a minimum term of 5 years. In his inauguration speech in Niamey, Abdurrahman Chiani, he described his presidency as a new beginning for a sovereign Niger, committed to national development. A veteran soldier, Chiani was also promoted to the country's highest military rank of Army General. Shortly after taking office, he signed a decree dissolving all political parties, further consolidating his grip on power. His actions defy pressure from regional blocs pushing for a swift return to democracy following the 2023 coup that ousted Niger's elected government. And off to East Africa, South Sudan's opposition has strongly condemned the arrest of first Vice President Riek Machar, stating that it has effectively nullified the 2018 peace agreement between Machar and President Salva Kiir and could push the country back into war. A convoy of 20 armed vehicles stormed Machar's residence in Juba late Wednesday, detaining him in what is seen as a major escalation of the conflict. The 2018 peace deal, which sought to end a brutal civil war that claimed around 400,000 lives, has been steadily unraveling in recent months. The United Nations has also expressed deep concern, warning that Macha's arrest could plunge the country into renewed violence, with fears of widespread unrest and retaliatory attacks growing among the population. A Turkish court has ordered the release of 7 journalists, including an AFP photographer, who were detained while covering the largest protest to hit the country in decades. According to Turkish authorities, the journalists were arrested for participating in an illegal gathering in Istanbul. The protest centered around Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, who was expected to be selected as the Republican People's Party's 2028 presidential nominee in a vote scheduled for Sunday. The move has sparked sharp criticism from rights groups and Paris-based international news agency AFP. And joining us now to give us more insight on this is Turkmen Tuksi. He is a journalist from Turkish online newspaper TR724. Turkmen, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for doing this with us. The mayor of Istanbul has been arrested. What are the political implications for Turkey?
Yes, this mayor is a very strong mayor. Actually, is a main opposition party's mayor, and he is a presidential candidate for 2028. It means he is Erdogan's main rival. So Erdogan was the mayor of Istanbul, and secular state banned him, jailed him 1998, and after that he formed a party and he became a president of Turkey, and have been ruling country since 2022. It means more than 20 years. So Ekrem İmamoğlu is same position now. He's Istanbul mayor, and he's a strong personality. And he is a CHP's presidential candidate. So they arrested him Wednesday last week, just day before the CHP's election, CHP's voting. He was the only presidential candidate of CHP. So then they arrested him. Then 1.5 million voted for him, and plus they opened for everyone, and 15 million voted for him. So he's a very important, is a big crisis, because İmamoğlu ended Erdogan's party's 25 years rule in Istanbul. He defeated Erdogan's party in 2019 March. Then they repeated election, and he again won the election in June. So this is a very big crisis. Erdogan was not expecting that one.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, Turkey has a long history of arresting journalists, right? And how does this case connect to the state of press freedom in the country?
Yes. According to Reporters Without Borders, Turkey is 185th of 180 countries in their 24 index. And according to Freedom House, Turkey is not anymore a free country. And during 2016 July coup attempt, we don't know who really behind this coup, is a stage coup or not, we really don't know. They closed down 170 media houses in Turkey. So they arrested so many hundreds of journalists, including my media. They shut down in 2016 because my media exposed Erdogan's corruption in 2013. So this is a long history. Turkey is jailing journalists, and many journalists are in exile. I read that today they also deported BBC journalists. I just read today they deported. Turkish governments. Yes.
At this point, one has to ask, how challenging is it for journalists to report freely in Turkey today?
It's very difficult, because many free journalists, like many editors, already left Turkey. And can you imagine, Turkish television and radio Supreme Board ban all TV channels to broadcast İmamoğlu's arrest. Can you imagine? And SSG TV is an opposition TV. They ban 10 days broadcasting, so they cannot broadcast for 10 days. So it's a very challenging, and they are arresting journalists, they are torturing, and without any trial, they are keeping in jail for prison for many years. Is a very challenging time. It was not like that, but especially the last 10 years, the situation is very bad for journalists. Many of them are Europe. Many of my editors are in Europe, in USA. They move to other countries. So it's a very challenging time now.
Well, I must say thank you so much, Turkmen, for just taking out the time to give us a bit of insight. And let's just see how this case plays out for the sake of the people in Turkey as the protest continues, as they call for the release and the release for the mayor. But once again, Turkmen, many thanks. Turkmen Turkci, he is a journalist giving us a bit of insight on the situation in Turkey ahead of the 2028 presidential elections. We move away from Turkey to Ukraine, where its president, Volodymyr Zelensky, has expressed hope that the United States will stand strong against Russia's demands to lift sanctions in exchange for a ceasefire in the Black Sea. Moscow insists that a maritime truce allowing safe passage for commercial vessels will only take effect if Western sanctions on Russia's food and fertilizer trade are removed. Speaking in Paris, Zelensky stressed the importance of continued U.S. support despite concerns over Russian influence on certain American policymakers. He also dismissed remarks by Trump's envoy, Stephen Witkoff, suggesting that his background in property development made him ill-equipped to assess Europe's efforts to support Ukraine. Zelensky also praised Europe's resilience in the face of Russia's ongoing aggression. China has issued a strong warning about the potential consequences of a trade war, stating that there will be no winners after U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 25% tariff on foreign-made vehicles. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Guo Jiakun, he stressed that no country has ever achieved prosperity through tariffs, warning that trade conflicts only undermine global development and stability. His remarks, delivered during a regular press briefing, reflect China's growing concerns over escalating tensions with the U.S. Let's circle back to Ukraine following the president's remarks and Ukraine's president's remarks in Paris. Our international correspondent Afia Hagen joins me now for more insight on this. Afia, many thanks for doing this with us. What's the main aim of the coalition of the willing meeting in Paris today?
Well, you've got 31 leaders that have been meeting in Paris today. They are led by Sir Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the UK, and Emmanuel Macron, the leader in France there. And they're significant because you don't really get this amount of political and diplomatic leaders in one place for one reason. It's not just, the EU or NATO. You've got EU, NATO, Turkish, Ukrainian, Canadian presence all there together. It's about a wider community and this coalition of the willing that they are calling it. There's a lack of US presence, but that is significant. And today's talks focused on three things. The first thing, relations with the US on Ukraine. Secondly, military assistance for Ukraine. And what happens if there is a ceasefire.
And what's the latest lines from the meeting?
Well, Volodymyr Zelensky is speaking now, as we can see. We just had a media briefing by Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer. And the main lines that they're telling us is that Emmanuel Macron wants to, along with Keir Starmer, wants to have this reassurance force. Now, a notably different term from peacekeeping force. That's what we're used to hearing. The idea was a British and French one at the request of Ukraine. It's still in its planning phase, but the force would not be a substitute for peacekeeping forces. So it will be an additional force that would maintain any ceasefire. He said that several states will contribute to this force and will not be on the contact line, instead deployed to strategic areas. Sir Keir Starmer, Volodymyr Zelensky, and outgoing German Chancellor Olaf Scholz also saying that now is not the time to lift sanctions against Russia, saying that actually it's quite the opposite. Keir Starmer saying that it was with absolute clarity that Russia is trying to delay and playing games, and we have to be absolutely clear about that. And also the discussions around this supposed ceasefire that's supposed to be in play right now over the Dead Sea area and over the energy infrastructure also, that was discussed. But it was all about today this formation of that force, that reassurance force that will be in addition to peacekeepers, but won't be made up of all the countries of the coalition of the willing.
And what's the latest from the front line in the Ukraine? Russia and Ukraine agreed a peace deal over targeting the Black Sea and infrastructure. Is that being respected?
No, absolutely not being respected at all. So you had dozens of drones launched overnight by Russia. So Ukraine's Air Force is saying that Russia launched 86 drones and Iskander-M ballistic missiles as well. Ukraine saying it managed to shoot down 42 of them. 26 did not reach their targets. But initial reports suggest that 21 people have been injured. So like I said, any ceasefire, tentative over energy infrastructure over the Black Sea area that has been declared is not being adhered to.
Well, Afia, I must say thank you for giving us insights here. We'll continue to follow the story as always. Thank you for coming on. Afia Hagen, our international correspondent, joining us live, a bit of insight for the Ukraine-Russia peace deal. South Africa's energy minister has criticized Eskom for its recent maintenance failures and increased unplanned breakages, leading to load shedding. After a promising start to 2024, the nation has experienced 175 hours of load shedding, largely due to sudden unit losses, causing stage 2 load shedding without prior notice. The minister expressed disappointment with Eskom's performance, noting that planned maintenance failures and undermining grid stability despite new capacity additions like Kosila's 800 megawatt. He further warned that more load shedding could reduce sales and increase emergency reserve costs, possibly affecting Eskom's projected 10 billion rand profit. The minister, however, assured that funds would remain available for the utilities recovery plan despite budget cuts. And now into sports, where Lobby Stars head coach Eugene Bolus remains optimistic about avoiding relegation despite their ongoing struggles in the Nigeria Premier Football League. The Makurdi-based club suffered a 2-0 defeat to Abia Warriors on matchday 31, extending their winless run and deepening their survival woes. However, Bolus, newly appointed to the role, insists his team still has a chance to stay up. And I quote, he said, "We are giving our best in every game and the boys are not playing badly," end quote, dismissing relegation fears. Lobby Stars remain bottom of the NPFL table, but with crucial fixtures ahead, Bolus hopes his side can stage a late season resurgence to secure their top flight status.
The result is not the true reflection of the result. The team did well, but one or two mistakes, then to concede. We're fighting for all games. Till now, we're not giving up. We can see this team.
And in Formula One, Red Bull has replaced Liam Lawson with Yuki Tsunoda after just 2 races in the 2025 Formula One season, confirming speculation surrounding the New Zealand's struggles. The 24-year-old will partner with Max Verstappen starting at next week's Japanese Grand Prix in Suzuka. Moving up from sister team Racing Bulls, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner cited the need to protect Lawson's development while prioritizing championship goals. Verstappen is second in the standings with 36 points, trailing McLaren's London Norris. Tsunoda has shown promise, finishing 12th in Melbourne before a pit strategy error cost him points in Shanghai. Spain's public prosecutor has demanded a 15.5-year prison sentence for former Spanish Football Federation President Angel Marie Valle over corruption and embezzlement allegations. Valle, who led the RFEF for 29 years before his 2017 suspension, is accused of misappropriating over 4.5 million euros through contracts between 2007 and 2017. His son, Coca, faces a 7-year sentence alongside former Vice President Juan Pedro, who prosecutors allege that Valle arranged friendly matches to profit, leveraging Spain's success in the 2008 and 2012 Euros and 2010 World Cup. The scandal follows years of turmoil at RFEF, including Luis Rubiales' 2023 resignation and Pedro Rochas's suspension before Rafael Luza's 2024 appointment. That's all we can take at this hour, but before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. The House of Representatives has passed additional 31 bills and withdrawn immunity bill. The 15th Emir of Kano, Ado Bayero, has cancelled annual Durbar celebration, citing security concerns. And we also told you that opposition in South Sudan has claimed Vice President's arrest signals end of peace deal. Remember that you can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Go TV channel 23, or also on Star Times channel 274. Find us on Avo TV, or better yet, stream us live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. Bye for now.